Eric Drobel here. You may know me from doing animation things. You may know me from doing Metahuman things. You may not know me at all. That's cool. I don't normally like to be so commercial, but when there's a genuinely good product out there that helps artists, animators, I'm going to get excited about it, and I'm okay with doing a little bit of marketing. Last month, Pact Game Development Systems asked me to do a pre-release review of their upcoming book, now released, called Reimagining Characters with Unreal Engine Metahuman Creator 2nd Edition. And so I like the book. Here's that video.
Unboxing!
Okay, so I've never done an unboxing video before. I want to make sure I get it right. This is the box being removed. The crux of the video. Bye, box. First things first, tactile, feels like a book, smells like a book, that's important, and it sounds like a book. Okay, with that out of the way, we can get to the content. This book covers a lot of ground. It does so without being too overwhelming, and I think that's because it doesn't dive into the super advanced metahuman stuff, which is going to be more like dynamic programming for things like games and whatnot. This book assumes that you're just going to be doing basic metahuman stuff, of which there's a lot to do with basic metahumans. If you've never even opened up Unreal before, I would say this book is still up your alley, because the first chapter, maybe the first two chapters are very much your first time opening Unreal, getting things installed, getting all the prerequisites that you need for metahumans, of which there are many. Should also note that this is for Unreal 5.7. It has an awareness that 5.8 came out, and that it explains to you several times throughout the book that there are that updates have been made for this particular workflow. You might want to pick up 5.8 and try that out. If you're truly getting started with Unreal Engine and metahumans, I don't even think you need to go there yet. You'll get so much out of just sticking with 5.7 and going through this whole book before you even jump into 5.8. If that's even something that you want to do, it is not necessary. There's some great stuff in 5.8, but really I think 5.7 brought enough to metahumans that you're not really shortchanging yourself by sticking with that. So it's about 370 pages with indexes and whatnot. The prints are in color. It comes with a free PDF if you prefer, having digital copies. It covers the gamut of metahuman creation. I mean, really goes into detail of Metahuman Creator, which is great because I don't even think the epic documentation really goes into the kind of detail that is required to know everything about metahumans, but this book does a great job of that. Not only does it take you through the basic metahuman creation, it takes you through advanced metahuman creation, dipping into other tools like Marvelous Designer, Blender, Houdini, really important workflows. And it only does this when the workflow itself is a industry-leading standard. So, for instance, creating clothing for metahumans right now, Marvelous Designer is considered the go-to for a lot of reasons, particularly with metahumans. And so this book has a whole chapter, if not chapters, on that. And I thought it was extremely helpful because I had never created any clothing for metahumans before. This is now my go-to reference for stuff like that. It also talks about creating grooms, editing grooms. It also talks about cloth simulation, which is nice. It talks about creating hair grooms with Blender, which is great. That's probably what I would have chosen as well, because making hair grooms with Maya is powerful, but painful. So yeah, I would recommend people that they try their grooms in Blender first. For the animation and motion stuff, there's a lot that goes into Sequencer, how metahumans interface with Sequencer, all really good stuff. It talks a bit about the body control rig and the face control rig that come with metahumans for being able to update and edit and create animations in Sequencer. It goes through several animation workflows, talks about jumping into Mixamo to grab those free animations, retargeting them using Unreal's retargeter to the metahuman skeletons. It goes into using a workflow through Deep Motion, which is a pay service, but it will give you what 5.8 now has, which is basically just free webcam motionless marker setup. But if for some reason you were stuck with 5.7, you might want to check that out. But do note the freer option is going to be downloading 5.8 and using what Unreal is giving us for free. It talks about using Metahuman Animator, using your webcam or iPhone for high quality face animation on metahumans. Very helpful. And all of these chapters come with exercises to kind of step by step get you acquainted with the process. You can get a lot out of just reading it, assuming that you remember the things that you're reading. There's also chapters jumping back into sequencer about lighting metahumans, camera work with metahumans, really a nice ground up sort of cross-discipline intro to Unreal Engine and how that relates to the most used parts of metahumans, which is going to be rendering queue for sequencer. You're going to be rendering out your own movies. Now, as I mentioned earlier, where does this book not cover? This book doesn't cover so much the advanced kind of animation, dynamic game animation stuff. And I don't think it really has a place in this book, right? This would no longer be a beginner intermediate book that's already pretty large. I think if it started to bring in like the animation blueprints, which it talks a little bit about the body animation blueprint, but like to really go into the deep stuff of the face post-process blueprint and the face animation blueprint, that stuff for like dynamic animation gets really hairy, and it could probably be a whole nother book of this size. So I don't fault the book whatsoever. In fact, it's probably good that it's steering from that stuff. That said, in the very end of the book, it does say, hey, if you're looking to get more into this stuff, making games with metahumans, making dynamic animation, it does point you to some tools that are good on Fab in the end of the book. I don't think it references my pack, and I don't fault them too much for that because it may not be the most beginner friendly pack out there, but hey, here's a plug for mine. Cool. My final thoughts are that this is great. I'm going to be keeping this around as a reference material. I honestly only have like 3 reference books as a industry animator that I go to all the time for a lot of reasons. 1, a lot of the books aren't that great. 2, books are heavy. They take up a lot of space, and I like to live light, as you can see. But this book has proven itself to be worthy to be part of my toolkit for a long time coming, I think, until I've mastered everything in this book, which I absolutely am nowhere near. I think I'll be holding on to this and referencing it quite often. So I wanted to thank Pact and the author Brian Rosny. I hope I'm Rosny, however that's pronounced. Thank you very much for the cool book, and I wish you all the greatest success. Metahuman.